This is the kind of probe I use. I think most guys use these. There's a few other styles. There's a digital version. There's a John Deere makes one. There's a bunch. These are, hold on, let's get out of the noise of the tractor. These are pretty expensive for what they are. They look low tech, but they're in my opinion the most accurate probe. So let's see what you guys can actually see right now. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna hit our button here. Pretty dry, but we're kind of between a flake. So we're gonna show again, about 10%. Look at the back, all the leaf in there. Look at the leaf pattern, it's gorgeous. It's dry. You know, that monitor's reading 16%, but we're like 10, but it's gorgeous. It's beautiful hay. So you can get away with a little dry, and it's gonna read pretty dry because of that. The stem moisture is so low right now because this has been sitting for so long. And we just, you know, kind of turned on hot the last week. We were running like 70s. Excuse me. High 70s, 80s. And now and on the bottom of these windrows, it's just now getting really nice and soft. But the hay's looking nice. We've got a lot to catch up on, so we're just gonna keep rolling. We don't have time this year with this breakdown that we had to, you know, wait with a perfect bale. There'll be some in there that are perfect. Some are gonna be too dry. But we've got, this morning we've got, just shy of 70 acres to bale, and there's another about 70 to go after that. That's been cut, hasn't been raked. We stopped raking when we found out that we were having an issue. So I had raked one field. The baler freaked out. It's the middle of the night. There's nothing you can do. You can't call your dealer at 3 in the morning. So I raked the next field that I was going to rake that day anyway. I played with the baler. When the sun came up, I thought I had it fixed and made a couple knots. It made, you know, a couple knots in a row. But the hay was already getting pretty dry, so I just assumed, hey, it's probably it's probably broken. Or no, it's probably good to go, but I don't want to make a bunch of dry hay, like really nasty toothpicks, you know, no leaves, dusty, dry. So I parked it. I said, okay, we're good. Well, I get up the next morning, 3:30 a.m. I come out here. I go to make a bale, first bale, all 6 twine break. I rethread. I drive, you know, however many, 500 more feet, and knotter's trip, it breaks all 6 strings. So at that point I just quit. I got up, I called the dealer as soon as they opened. They came out and they spent a long time and they got it all going, and that's the most important thing when you're buying anything. And everybody that's a farmer already knows this, but for those of you that aren't, it's just like your car, right? Yes, there's occasionally a car that you might buy that you don't have a dealer near you, but it's your dream car. Okay, we all have that random piece of equipment that we bought that you have no dealer support for, and then you regret it for the next 10 years. So that's the most important thing. It's the same as your car. You want to have a dealer in your area. You know, if you have a local Toyota dealer, Kia dealer, Chevy dealer, Ford dealer, whatever, but you want whatever you don't have, and that's 3 hours away, and the first time, you know, your car's still under warranty, and the first time your car breaks down, you have to get it towed 3 hours, and you know, the dealer's a pain to work with, whatever. You don't want to have to do that. So it's important. We have great dealer support. You know, honestly, these knotters are working better now than they were before it got screwed up. So, you know, I used to have the occasional mistie, and we'll still get the occasional mistie. It's gonna happen. It just does. Either you break strings because your bales are a little too tight, or your knot tails get a little short and they'll just, you know, knot will slip out. But ideally, you just keep going, keep moving forward. We try not to tinker with it too much, you know. I had one knotter the last few years that was just always coming untied. You know, the tails would be like, the tail should be, you know, 3/4 of an inch, half to 3/4 of an inch. The tail is sticking out of the knot, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. But they'd be like 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch. And so what would happen is the bale would tie, everything would work, it would come out of the back of the baler, and you could drive by the windrow you just baled on the way back up the field, and you could watch the knot slip and let go. And so when you have something like that where it's every 4th or 5th bale, we try to fix it. If you get out of the baler every time you have a single mistie and you only have one and you don't have it again all day, you drive yourself crazy, because sometimes it just happens. You know, maybe your windrow wasn't feeding evenly, or you had a lump in the windrow right as the knotter's tied, or you had a rough spot in the twine, or, you know, one of your rollers on your needles hung up a little bit for some reason. Any number of things. You had a little debris on top of the baler. Anything can cause a mistie. And so that's kind of why, like I said, they're working better now than they were before. I saw one mistie, and it was, you know, I made some bales that didn't have enough flakes in them. I try to keep it around 30, 35 flakes. Ideally, you get around 28, you're okay, but the bales start getting a little too light. You get below that, in alfalfa, you'll probably be okay. In grain hay, so wheat, triticale, we don't really grow oats here. They don't do too well. We don't have a long enough spring per se. You know, it's usually still pretty cold in March, and we don't get like frigid cold here like other areas of the country, but we'll get down pretty regularly in the teens, and it's not uncommon to be in the single digits. So come March, our temperature swings are huge too. So we'll be, it's like, what does the tractor say? It's 59 degrees right now, and it's going to be almost 100 degrees today. So 40 degree temperature swing. And we have the same thing in the spring. We'll have huge temperature swings. We'll be 60 degrees, and then we'll be 20 degrees at night. And so things like oats, the spring planted grains, they just never do that well here because they don't have time to tiller and accumulate a lot of leaf mass before it gets hot. And when it gets too hot, then those small grains, they just like to shut down. So we like to plant winter grains, you know, winter small grains for forage when we can. Occasionally we'll have a spring planted one that happens. They just never perform that well. I mean, if you get them in really early, maybe, but our irrigation system here, the district, usually we don't turn on water until March 15th is the earliest possible turn on date. And if there's not enough demand for water, if not enough people order water, then we typically won't turn on until, you know, even like April 1st. So that's where we're at. And I said I had a broken string, but I think this is actually a bale they made yesterday when they were testing out the baler, trying to get it dialed in. So I don't know if we've had one. I think they're all holding good. So we took a little raking video the other day. I don't know if you watched that. You see how close I was just now to that bale. That rotary rake does a great job, but because of the way you rake to one side, you rake to your right. We do usually end up with either a 3-into-1 or you have 2 windrows next to each other. So we're gonna shut off here. I'm gonna stop talking, but I hope you guys enjoyed.